if you want to look at the big picture and say, look at what this Bills offense is, they're great. You know, they're second in the league in points. Take a look at that. And I'm not talking about an eye test. I'm talking about actually look at the numbers and say, well, when you score 38, 37, and 48, the numbers will be skewed a little bit.
Dan Fates came with receipts.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus Podcast, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. We're going to be talking about our level of concern for this Bills offense. Is Josh Allen getting a wee bit defensive, as well as this Bills Patriots AFC matchup and where Buffalo stacks up in the division and where the Patriots are at now as well. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Share with friends as well. Bills getting ready for Foxborough this upcoming weekend, Mike, and a lot left to be desired by the offense these last couple of games. And I posed the question before we started recording. What is your level of concern now heading into where we're at in the season and ahead?
All right. First of all, I'm going to start by saying I'm cranky today. I'm cranky like Josh Allen has been. Mine is a software issue with our good friends at Apple. And by the way, everybody's telling me, you're having Wi-Fi issues. No. It's a computer issue, and I will get to the bottom of it. Okay? Man. The best part of my day is seeing you two right now. So that's good. So I get to see you two and get to vent.
That's got to be a lie.
Well,
I hope your day gets better than that.
Well, it will. But I was like, God, cranky. And then I'm like, all right, let me get this done and it will get fixed. That's the way the Bills should be describing this offense. Okay. Be a little cranky, but find out the issue. And I'll use my analogy again. I have tried every other part. And you know what I got to do? I got to reboot the whole thing. Now, I'm not saying they need to start from ground zero, but I'm sorry. When they're defending what's going on with the offense, and I get Josh sticking up for his coach because that's what a pro does in that way. But I hope that's just for our benefit and the fans' benefit. It's kind of like, I don't know what you're talking about. There's a problem. There's a problem. You're getting shut out in the fourth quarter at home by the Giants. I'll give you London as an aberration because of the travel and everything else. Dan, you come back home, and that's what you put on the field. Be defensive all you want, but internally, they better be figuring out what's wrong.
Okay, there are a couple things that the narrative is like, the offense is fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry. All of these things, they'll figure it out. What we heard yesterday as we record this podcast on Thursday morning was Sean McDermott calling out the offense, Ken Dorsey, in that, as much as Sean McDermott will ever call somebody out. Sean is always big picture. We all have to get better individually. It was the offense needs to figure it out. We're in week 7. Figure it out. Like, if that's not, I think Jen and I joked around about the post-practice recap. It was like, shots fired. And this thought, Mike, where you're saying the Jags game is an aberration, I'm not really sure. And we kind of nitpick the national media when they helicopter in or parachute in and say, like, the Bills are bad and they don't know what they're talking about. But now there's also the narrative of, like, the Bills offense is great. Why is everybody complaining about the offense? Like, look at where they are. They're second in this percentage and second in this percentage of the offense. And why is Ken Dorsey being talked about in Buffalo as this, the problem? Well, here you go for you. Because I was looking yesterday and I go, the fact of the matter is, I still don't know what this Bills offense is. I don't know if they're good or if they're not, like, to some respects. Now, they're still got Josh Allen, so they will always be fine and competitive. But they played 6 games. 3 of them, they have looked flawless, outstanding in those 3 games. The other 3 games, they have been bottom 10 in the NFL in offensive numbers. And that's just not one game, guys. That's 3. Okay. And they were early in the season and they were late in the season. The Jets game, the Jags game, and the Giants game. If you take just those 3 games, they average 16.7 points per game. That would be good enough for 28th in the NFL in points per game. That's not one game. That's 3. Their yards per game, 330 in those 3 games. That would be 15th in the NFL. And they had 8 turnovers in those 3 games, which would be the most in the NFL. Most giveaways. Or sorry, that would be the 5th most giveaways in the NFL. And the other games, they were phenomenal. The Raiders, Commanders, Dolphins, 41 points per game. First in the NFL. 416 yards. Second in the NFL. 1 turnover in those games. Which team are they? Because we can no longer say, well, the Jets game was just an aberration. The Jets game, it was just one Jets game. Because now all of a sudden, the Jags aren't a stellar defense. The Giants aren't a stellar defense. Like, where are they? What team? Where are they offensively? I don't know. So the fact of, if you want to look at the big picture and say, look at what this Bills offense is, they're great. You know, they're second in the league in points. Take a look at that. And I'm not talking about an eye test. I'm talking about actually look at the numbers and say, well, when you score 38, 37, and 48, the numbers will be skewed a little bit.
Dan Fates came with receipts. That's going to be the name of this podcast.
Hey, Jenna, just remember, I start out by saying, I'm the cranky one today.
Okay, Dan, to your point, it's definitely, what is it, Jekyll and Hyde. Like how 1 week it can be this high-flying offensive explosion, and another week it can be what we've seen and the struggles that are well documented that we've talked about. And I think why there's my level of concern is high is just because we've seen this almost last year too. And I talked about this in the other video we posted of like this sample size of not really knowing what the identity of this Bills offense is. And when we're in week 7 and Sean McDermott is talking about having to have other players involved and figuring out what other guys, Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, Khalil Shakir, like what they do well and what they can add to this offense, that is where my antenna goes up and it's like, yeah, why is their usage been so low? Is it because the player's not good enough? Or is it because the scheme is not good enough? Or is it probably a mixture of both? But at the same point, what do you do now to address those things, Mike? Because we know this team, these numbers are so skewed in one way because Josh Allen is fantastic. But at the same point, to be seeing like the tea leaves of that same struggle the Bills had offensively last year, I think that's what stands out the most to me is that fear. It's like, yeah, last year they won a lot of games, but we all know that they were really ugly, A, and B, it's not a sustainable way to win in this league.
Jenna, I wish they had an excuse for the Bills about injuries. But on the offensive side of the ball, this is their team. Yes, they didn't have Dalton Kincaid, okay, but he has been a relatively minor part of the offense. And I think you can look at that realistically and say he's a rookie, and they're trying to incorporate that into it. But I will also say one other thing, that numbers are down around the league.
That's true.
And it really is. And it's like you look at, the Chiefs haven't looked great. The Eagles haven't looked great. Even the Niners looked very human in their last game, and that may be Brown's defense. But the overall numbers around the league, for whatever reason this year, are down. But the Bills have been so that it's been just so different between good and bad. And you made the good point. Without Josh Allen being Josh Allen, I mean, if Kyle Allen was playing in that Giants game, they don't score. Allen made tremendous plays to save them. Yeah. And I look at their offense and I go, okay, I actually think the offensive line's played okay. Like, I have not looked at it like, oh my God, they've been terrible. I think they've gotten pretty good play. So you're saying to yourself, what is it? And Dan, they keep going back to this rhythm thing. They need a rhythm. And I think that comes from a multitude of things, including confidence, knowing who you are, where you are, stepping up to that line. I'm going to go to Dan Fates route here and go golf. You hit a few good drives. You step up to that next tee. You're not thinking of anything else. You jump up there and swing the club and go. They're not swinging the club. It's like, They're ready to snap the ball, and you just don't feel it. And that's why I love when they play with pace. Because when they're doing that, Jenna, it feels like they all know what's going on. And there are times this recent time where you're like, I don't know what's happening when they snap the ball, other than getting the ball to 14. And then I got to hear everybody say, well, he's getting all the numbers because there's nobody else. Well, yeah. So maybe that's the only thing that's working. So if you're them, if you're Josh, you're like, I'm going to throw it to 14 because we need points because we got to win the game. So you're trying to work on these things, but there is no confidence level, it appears to me, in these last couple games.
Question for you both. We talk so much about Ken Dorsey, but where is your level of blame is too strong of a word, but how much does Josh have to do with this as well? The offensive struggles.
Very little.
I was going to say, usually, the Jets game, and we've seen the way the Jets have played, like Dan was making the point about those 3 games. I think the Jets have a outstanding defense. I think the Jags is pretty good, and I think the Giants are bad. So all 3 levels, they've done it poorly. Yeah. I honestly, outside of that Jets game when he made some bad decisions, I think Josh has been really good and great at times. It's not like you're like, what's Josh doing? What's he doing? He had the one game where he did that. The rest of the time, I'm sorry, it'd be easy to pin it on the quarterback and then everybody, or like in this case, but Dan, I don't see it. I don't see Josh being a problem at all.
No, that Giants game, they lose if it's not for Josh Allen because play to Quentin Morris, it's not a touchdown. Like, that was a bad play call. There's nothing there, and Josh makes something out of nothing. So, like, Ken Dorsey doesn't get a tip of the cap for that touchdown drive, in my opinion. Like, that's just Josh Allen being, like I said, putting on a cape in the phone booth and coming out as Superman. Like, that saved the game. And again, the Giants defense stinks. I can't stress it enough. We did the Buffalo Plus Live. I said they shouldn't punt. Like, they gave up 31 points to Miami and forced 3 turnovers in that game. Like, that is how bad they are. And Mike, to your point, finishing the analogy take, you talk about golf, and I don't care how good your good shots are. I don't. I care about how good are your bad shots. And right now, the Bills' bad shots are pretty bad. Every golfer's good shots are good. I want to know how bad are your bad shots. Do you duff it? Or is your bad shot like when I'm playing golf with Brandon Bean and he's throwing his club because his shot is 12 feet to the right, pin high. Like, that's when Bean's upset at his shot. Right now, the Bills, and that's why I get why McDermott is upset about consistency. What team is going to show up against the Patriots? Like, do you guys have any confidence that, like, hey, everything's going to be fine? It's like, well, things haven't been fine. And again, you talk about, Jenna, where your level of concern, blame is. I go back to the playoff game. Like, again, this isn't a new system. This isn't a new play caller. This isn't a new coordinator. And I remember saying in that Bengals game, Dorsey should be is coaching for his job. And things haven't gone really easy since then. And I'm not the one. I find it very interesting. Here's a hot take for you that I don't have one.
Oh, let's mark the time.
I'm going to take the Jenna route here. And I've talked to you about this, Jenna. The way that everybody is so split on Dorsey, there is the group of people that think Ken is great, better than Dable. The offense is great. Why is anybody critiquing Dorsey? And then there's the crowd of people that think Ken Dorsey literally is the worst coach in the NFL and that he should be fired today. And while I can be critical of Dorsey, I actually land somewhere in the middle. Like, I land the fact of he is what you have right now. Mm-hmm. He's been in the building. He should know things. He has to make changes. Like, this thought of just banging your head against the wall, hoping something's going to be different is crazy to me. But like, there has to be a middle ground in where Ken Dorsey is. He deserves some of the blame, and some of it, things got to get better. But I'm not basing this just off the 6 games, and I'm not basing them just off the 3 bad games. I'm basing them off the grand scale of what we have seen over the last year in 6 games. And that's where my level of concern is.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think I like your analogy of like we know what the ceiling is and how high it can be, but the floor seems like some weeks we're finding a new low.
Yeah.
I like
Jenna,
that.
how about the
Michael.
elite level name drop that Dan threw in there? When I'm playing golf with Brandon Bean, love it. Michael Wilbon level name dropping right there.
Just sprinkling it in. When I'm golfing with my good pal Brandon Bean.
Won the Bills media golf tournament again, no big deal. But yeah,
Oh,
but like
yeah.
Bean is like, come on, and I'm sitting there. It's like if I would have hit that shot, I would have been so happy. I would have twirled my club and skipped back to the cart. And Bean's kicking the dirt.
Well,
You're like, what?
Because hey, let's use it. That's where the expectations are. And Jenna, you said how much blame for Josh? I'll give you the blame. He picked him. He picked Dorsey. Josh was all in, and he's still all in. And I agree with the idea of he's his coach. He's his, I'll say friend, right? I think he is.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the way he is with Daboll. This is Josh. Like when he's all in, he's all in. But he needs to have that, all right, I just got to tell you something moment with his friend where the truth comes out. I've been on the receiving end of those. Where it's like, okay, here we go. Let's hash this out. And maybe they've had, I don't know, but Josh is a very coachable guy for an elite level player. He is. I think he is. He will listen. And it might take a little while for some stuff, but I don't believe he sits there and goes, it's all on you. Yeah. But he picked, when I say he picked him, but come on. Jenna, if he didn't want Dorsey would not be the OC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He threw his support behind Dorsey, and that is what led the Bills to have confidence in their decision. And we saw, Dan, I mean, we were in Orchard Park yesterday. We saw how much he was standing up for Dorsey, talking about the fact that there's a lot of offensive coordinators. Josh was on the couch.
Love it.
A lot of quarterbacks in the stands. He walked back the comment because I think he kind of swallowed what he said, because I don't think Josh wanted to make waves in that way. But I mean, Mike, we heard him say like,
how did he walk it back? What did he say?
Well, he just said, I'm trying to think. I only used the first part of his bite where he's like, yeah, there's a lot. But even the tone in which he says it is very, I don't want to say monotoned, but it's very even. So it doesn't even have the inflection of sounding like it's like a baiting comment. It's to me, it's
Josh,
it's like, well, there's a lot of offensive coordinators.
All pro offensive
coordinators. At first, I thought he was going to look for Dan Fates. And then he said, it's a joke, Dan. And then he said, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the stands. I need to listen to the full bite. And then he said,
I have been on here saying that one of the hardest things to do in all of professional sports is call plays. Like it, again, we all sit there and it's like, I played Madden and I won the Super Bowl when I was in college with this team that I built. It's like,
you did?
Cool, dude. Like,
hey, I got one for you. I'm going to go another analogy for you. And this one, Jenna will appreciate. I'm no chef. Never be a chef. Can't cook anything, right? You go to a restaurant, you can taste it, feel it, sense it, whatever it is. You don't like it. But then you got somebody saying, listen, you guys don't know what it takes. We have an elite chef. Okay, we're looking at the result. So is every other offensive coordinator out there. And maybe you would say, hey, how about lightening up on the seasoning, or this was bland or whatever. You're looking at the result. It's not anybody else's job to figure out the minutia. That's their job. The result is 0 points in the fourth quarter against the Giants. Okay. So I'm sorry. You keep
7
telling
points
me
heading into the fourth quarter against the Jags.
Yeah. You keep telling me it's okay. But in the NFL, it is a results driven operation. And I may not know why, you may not know why, all these offensive coordinators that are in the stands may not know why, except they keep score in the NFL. And the offense, I'm telling you, you can be the biggest diehard in the world. You're worried about this team's offense right now.
The team feels tired and like it's not fun from my observations. And I know that might sound like, well, Jenna, it's their job, all that stuff. Do you
I don't get that.
this is
I
my
don't get that
this
sense.
is you don't think that it's I feel like this part of the schedule has been a slog for them after coming back from London, the Giants game. I think for right now, like this team has a lot of juice, but I feel like right now they're kind of depleted on that. And maybe this is the game where that switch is then flipped because things start going well, all that stuff. But my interpretation is it feels like the energy level is a bit low. And I think that's the after effects of playing some tough, grinded out games, the schedule, where they're at, and just in terms of, there's still a lot of games left before the bye.
Winning and succeeding is fun, and that provides energy.
Yeah.
And so when this team goes 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 4 and out, punt, there's no energy. Like it's the baseball team that goes 1, 2, 3 the first 3 innings, and it's like, well, how come they're not into the game? And it's like because they haven't hit the ball out of the infield, and it's not a lot of fun. But like you look at the Dolphins game, they couldn't have any more fun. Like 6, and that's part of. Sean talked about getting the first down, converting the first third down, the importance of that. That's what they have preached all week. That's what something that'll be very interesting to see to me on Sunday, because every player, when I talk to Dawson Knox, Trent Sherfield, Mitch Morris, all of those things, they're like, hey, Sean's been preaching this week. Like, you got to convert that first third down. Like it's massive. And on the other side, he talks about it also defensively, getting off the field on that first third down, like what that does for your team. And another baseball analogy, like I feel like it was different when like the Yankees were really humming and it's like Jeter gets a hit in the first inning and like everybody settles down and Jeter would come back to the dugout and be like, guy's got nothing. And it's like, okay, like the rest of the lineup can take a breath to be like, we're good. We're going to, we can do this. So my you're also putting in a lot of pressure on that opening drive. And that's a scripted drive that you're hoping that Ken calls his best plays. So it's a lot that's going to go into this.
Hey, Jenna, how about a couple of things? One, I keep hearing from people, maybe you guys do too, and it's anecdotal. It's just people looking. They tell me, you talk about having fun. They go, Josh doesn't look like he's into it. Now, have you heard people say that to you? I get it all the time. And I'm like, well, he's focused. Like they talk about shots of him on the sidelines, shots of him on the bench. It seems different. And I always say to them, listen, the guy's got a million things going through his head. I don't mean celebrating a touchdown. He looks like Josh. I'm talking about the rest of the game, especially when it's tight. Like, and they're looking for that. And to Dan's point about getting that going, maybe they need to switch up some stuff a little bit. How about Sunday, you win the toss, take the ball, let's get going. Get the offense on the field. I understand that whole idea, the double dipping and all that kind of stuff.
Change it up.
Let's change something up. Say to yourself, no, look, you would almost say to yourself, we guarantee we're getting the ball because they're going to defer because every coach seems to defer. But you kind of say, let's do it. Something. And one thing we haven't really talked about, I mentioned the O-line. Who's stepping up for them? Diggs has been awesome. I tweeted out his numbers. He's on, and I'm not a big on pace guy, but we're a third of the way through the season. And he's at the top of his game, right?
Yeah.
Gabe had a few moments, nothing. Since then, he made a couple nice catches in the Jags game, especially late. I will give him that. But even that, beyond that, nothing, So it also is incumbent on these other guys who they've given it to. Not that it's not on Dorsey, but would be nice if somebody, stepped up or they bring somebody in because they, they're hurting on offense. And Dan, maybe you need to go a little more all in on offense because your defense is banged up.
But the defense isn't the problem.
No,
that's what he's saying.
That's what I'm saying is like
the offense. Like you go all in on the offense
because your defense, I think, will maybe not be as dominant as it has been in times, but you might need
to
more.
score 45
Yeah.
points. Yeah.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? I guess the one piece that really stood out to me, and it's a guy that I've liked for a long time. I don't know what's happened. I don't follow the Raiders a ton, but Hunter Renfrow seems like a guy that would be a perfect fit in that position. But you had all off season with Trent Sherfield, which Ken Dorsey pretty much gave glowing reviews, and he's had 2 catches, and Deontay Hardy plays 10 snaps a game. Like, at what? I get it, bringing somebody in offensively, running back even, like something. But do you have any faith that, remember when they brought in Nyheim Hines and he couldn't pick up the playbook, but Hines was really smart? Like, I have no faith that they could bring in somebody at the trade deadline that'll make an impact offensively. None.
Well, and Sherfield had an impact for the Dolphins playing behind Hill and Waddle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And he's
Again, I'm not
found
trying
a
to
way
sound,
make
I'm
it.
not trying to sound, and I'm not trying to sound like negative Nancy here. Like, but the fact of the matter is like, I would love Hunter Renfrow to come here. I think he fits perfectly. He had a 1,000-yard season 2 years ago. Great possession receiver, all of those things. But I just have zero faith thinking that during the season, they'll get him up to speed when they had guys with off-season mini camps, OTAs, and training camps. And we still don't know. We're now week 7, and Sean McDermott is open. He defended Hines. Remember, we kept asking last year, hey, when is Hines going to get involved? And he's like, well, we're still learning some things. Now this year, he's like, we need to figure this out. Like, we brought these guys in, not during the trade deadline. We brought them in. They had an entire offseason with us. Figure it out.
Yeah. And even Trent Sherfield, we talked so much in the offseason because Stephon Diggs was not there, that Sherfield's getting a bunch of these quality reps during mini camps, things like that, because Diggs was absent. So I get it, Dan. It's like, at what point is that stuff going to translate on the field? And if not, what are you doing? What are you doing to remedy that situation?
But hey, guys, they're 4-2. And, the offense is number 2 in offensive success rate, or some stat that I don't understand how it gets calculated, but they're really good in it. So, like, why are we even critiquing anything about this offense?
How about the 11.5 personnel? Now, and not just there, but where's
injuries a little bit?
No,
yeah.
But tight ends have gone down in their effectiveness, not up.
Yep.
I mean, Quentin Morris made a play. That's great.
On one ankle.
On one ankle, and he makes the play. But tight end has not been, it's been very mediocre so far. So it's kind of like you're sitting there going, where's it coming from? So look, the constant has been Dorsey in this case. And it's probably not all on him, but he's got to get this going. He's got to figure it out. That's when coaching, Jenna, when we'll hear them say, we got to put these guys in a better position. Some of that is BS, but some of that is true. And scheme them up a little bit, make it a little easier. The perfect example was the Hardy touchdown. It looks so easy. And it's fun. Like you look and you're like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And give them credit. That was great. Dan, there just hasn't been anywhere near enough of that where you look like you schemed them into something.
I slept pretty well. And like, we're doing this podcast and I was like, I didn't expect to be like angry Dan. Like, I
started that.
Yeah, I think so. But like, we're sitting here and we're sitting here, we're talking. It's like, hasn't the offensive line performed above our expectations?
Yeah.
Like, hasn't the offensive line? Shout out Spencer Brown. I mean, there were people in that Steelers preseason game that said he shouldn't get back on the bus. Like, the fact of how bad it was. He has been phenomenal.
Who said that?
Dion has been playing at a really high level.
Yeah.
The offensive line has been great. So the fact that this offense has struggled to get things involved, it's like, you're sitting here and I get it. I would like to make excuses for why the offense has looked not like themselves for half of the season, not one game, not one bad week, half the season. And it's like, the offensive line is great. They're healthy. They've got, their first round draft pick for the most part, minus one game where he missed. And you're like, I'm trying to see, like, if I'm Sean McDermott, I'm like, I got guys off. I got rookies playing all over the place. I'm losing all pros left and right, and I'm still calling a hell of a game in confusing offenses. Ken, what's going on? Like, and again, you talk about putting players in position, because I'm sitting here and it's like, well, we can't say that the offensive line hasn't been good. We can't say that Stephon Diggs hasn't been good. We can't say like that Gabe Davis has been injured. All of those things, everything has gone pretty swimmingly for the offense. While Sean McDermott is putting this defense together with rubber bands and bubble gum, and it's still playing at an extremely high level. And I think that's part of why Sean's saying at the press conference, like, you need to figure it out. Like, I've figured it out. I'm figuring it out. I got Dorian Williams flying around the field.
In the past, Sean called out Dable.
Absolutely.
And he responded.
He's called out Josh. He's called out other guys that they need to step up. Like, he's called out Isaiah McKenzie. Like, he's called out guys. It's just few and far between, especially when it's what seeming is the offensive coordinator who's been there for now 6 years, and he's been in charge for a year and a third.
A lot to rest on that.
And look, there is evidence of the opposite, like we said. I mean, there's 3 great games where it looked like they had it figured out. So that is a positive here, because they've shown it. They've shown the ability to do it. It's just
Dan.
No. Wait a minute. We've seen it a few weeks ago. They scored 48 against the Dolphins. Go ahead.
Yep. Life's easy when everything's perfect. Like, that's, and like, I get that Josh did, that was part of what Josh said at his press conference was, we're learning how, when things get tough, to make things happen, because as the season goes on, things get tougher. That's fair.
Yeah.
But what if they didn't pull out that touchdown against the Giants, and all of a sudden it's like, you're not finding ways to get things done? So like, this thought of like, when everything's perfect and every play you're hitting is the right play, things are very easy in the NFL. We said that Dorsey, for those 3 games, were like, he is at an unreal level. It's the in-game adjustments. It's when you go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, are you able to switch? Even though you say all week, we're going to game plan this way, and then all of a sudden the defense is matched up and prepared for that. Okay, change plans. Now we're going to go to plan B, right, guys? This is what we're going to do. I'm not seeing those changes. I'm not seeing the in-game adjustments coming out of halftime dialed in. That's where I'm worried.
Okay, but you have to be fair and say, in recent weeks, we have seen them at an elite level offensively. So Absolutely. It has been there. And I agree with you. The thing is, this is the NFL. When you get to the playoffs, there's your shot, right? It's a game. You got to win that game. So you don't have the ability to say, well, we'll get them game 2, game 3. That's not the way it works. But I would say this. It's just been so hit or miss with them. I would say if they did not have those 3 games, you'd be like, is this even possible? Well, it is. And look, they started out poorly in that Raiders game, couple of drives, and then boom, they just turned it on and blew them out. And the Dolphins game was, you just want to package it. So it's in there somewhere. The ability, but the idea is, can you find it? And it wasn't opponent based. That's the frustrating part. At least I don't think so. It wasn't like, we can say all we want how Dable knows their offense. Well, that's great. I mean, I love him, but his offense hasn't scored in 220 minutes. He doesn't have the guys, and they still almost beat him. So that's why I'm saying is it's not like they only had one moment. Jenna, they had 3 full games where their offense played at a great level. Yeah. So the job is, what is it?
You know that exists.
Yes. The floor's got to be a lot higher than it's been. It's great when the ceiling's high. Get that floor up.
That's exactly what I was saying. Just, you want to see where the floor is consistently, and it feels like in some weeks you're finding new lows. Yeah. And that is not the way to, and like last week, obviously they did pick up the win, Dan, but you're right. It took Josh Allen putting on the superhero cape and coming out and making some big time plays and big moments. And that is what great players do. But at the same point, it shouldn't be as hard as it has looked over these last couple of games. All right. Well, coming up ahead though, Patriots. And we have talked for years about the Patriots, New England, Bill Belichick, obviously when Tom Brady was there, what this team did in the division, in the league, and how Bills fans would have this matchup circled on their calendars because it was like, all right, maybe this year they can contend. And obviously the last couple of seasons, I mean, the Bills, especially in that playoff game, a perfect game against the Patriots, like the Bills have dominated New England. Mike, for this team now going into this weekend, like two things. One, isn't it wild to see how the division has flipped so much in these last couple of years? And then also, two, is this a perfect moment for kind of a get right game for the Bills because of where this Patriots team is at?
Well, a couple of things on that. One, we thought last week was going to be a get right. We were
I
right.
did not.
Okay. Jenna taking credit. You're right. It wasn't, but it certainly was available to them coming off that game and the Giants being bad, and it didn't happen. Was only the 21 season when the Patriots beat the Bills in that game, and New England reporters were, not all of them, but a few, like, the crown wasn't on the Bills for very long. And they're done. And, Mac Jones and all this kind of stuff. Look, it may be the Dolphins. The Jets look like they got a lot. But I can tell you one thing it is that it's not the Patriots. That is a bad football roster right now. And whatever Mac Jones could have been, he's not. He has no confidence, even with another OC. And he's got no weapons. And they're a mess. Doesn't mean they can't play the Bills tough. Doesn't mean they couldn't win the game, right? Because this is the NFL. But that is without question the fourth team in the AFC East. And the Bills got a lot to work on their own, but they're in a different stratosphere because of 17 and a lot of guys on this roster compared to what they're going to see in Foxborough. And this may be the last time the Bills go to Foxborough with Bill Belichick as the head coach of the Patriots.
What a statement.
Patriots stink. Like they're just really bad. Wonder what Sun Tzu is thinking about this Patriots team right now. Because they're not very good. And I thought actually having an offensive coordinator would help, but when you don't have any offensive players, that's kind of
is that a problem?
Is that
and they've made every wrong move roster wise. Jacoby Myers has been pretty solid with the Raiders. Devontae Parker has been awful for New England, and they picked him over Jacoby Myers. They're just not good. Again, I wish I could say it. Like, I wish I would learn my lesson, but like this should be another blowout game. Like this should be another get right game. And we learned last week that is so insulting to say to another NFL team that it's a get right game. Like it's a JV scrimmage, but like these two teams they're in completely different weight classes. I mean, this is, and again, for how great of a coach you are, you need to have players too. And this is kind of same thing of, I still really like Brian Dable. I think he coached a hell of a game. I think he made a couple of mistakes, but like you just don't got dudes. You need dudes. And the Patriots do not have dudes. And it is very weird, despite what Von Miller will say about they're the same Patriots as when they had Brady.
It's just like Brady and Gronk, Mac Jones and Gesicki.
Yeah. So Von's been in the league about 13 years. I don't know if you guys knew that. And he likes to he just says things. But yeah, his Patriots team is really bad. And like we went in, Jenna, we were up there yesterday. Yeah. Sean McDermott, I think, was probably asked about a dozen questions. There was one about New England.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
That is where this team is. The fact that we used to go like, how are you going to stop Brady? And how do you deal with Belichick? And he's, playing 3D chess while everybody's playing checkers. And now it's like, we're just talking about the Bills offense. That's all we did.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, no,
that is
true.
how uninteresting the Patriots are, how boring they are, how bad they are, that it's like we don't even how bad Mac Jones is. Like there's just nothing to do. Like you used to be like, hey, like Mac Jones, up and coming guy, like, hey, like how do you handle this? All these things. Nothing.
Jenna, they're a Sunday 1:00 team. That's what I said.
Well, that's why
who
the Bills.
Patriots are.
I mean, this is a Sunday 1:00 game, and when they play again, isn't it a Sunday 1:00 game?
Yeah.
And that's essentially the last Sunday 1:00 game on the schedule for
Yeah.
this team. It just goes to show you even how the NFL feels. Bills are prime time. Patriots are Sunday at 1.
Yeah. And look, they've had moments, and they can play like any other team in this league. Like if you get the right scheme,
They
you
have
go
players
in.
that get paid too.
They get paid too. We hear about all that, but it's it's flipped for Josh too, and it'll be interesting post game. Remember, we used to think about McDermott's handshakes with Belichick. They are a loving embrace compared to what we saw Sunday in Orchard Park.
Yeah, it's a very quick handshake.
Daboll and McDermott was a passing. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But the reason I say that about Belichick is I think it's probably going to get to the point where he doesn't want to stay. Like, you know what I mean? Like it'll be I've agreed to part ways. We thank him for all this. And he's going to go coach somewhere else because he's going to get the all-time record for wins. And I'm telling you, I don't think it's happening in Foxborough.
Wow. That's just a wild, like, I totally hear what you're saying. I just can't picture Bill Belichick not in New England.
Yeah.
I mean, I know obviously he wasn't there his entire career, but what he is meant to New England.
Like it.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Him wearing a different color, like, I don't know. It's just weird to think about. He's got to cut his...
Boy.
Like, can you picture him on like the Chargers sideline? Like, no, it just looks weird.
Yeah. And that's actually, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because the Chargers would be one of the places I could see him.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot.
He's so LA. Are you kidding me?
He is. But I went through the whole league and I'm like, I'm going to have a tough time finding a place for him. Yeah. With ownership and everything. That's their issue. That's their issue going forward.
It's an ownership thing too. You don't have Bill Belichick come in and then also have, a GM. Like he runs your whole organization. He's earned that.
Him and his dog Nike.
He can pick bad wide receivers nonstop. So
like he ain't coming to work for somebody. He's like, I'm coming to run your franchise. Like whatever you want. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? I feel like this was what is that called on Seinfeld?
Therapy session.
Festivus, like airing of grievances.
Yeah. And Dan, I'm sorry. You were probably in a good mood. I started out. This is the other MacBook. Man, Apple. It's not their fault.
No, make it be their fault so they pay
use
for
your
it.
air.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Share with friends if you enjoy our work. Check out the Buffalo Plus store, buffaloplusstore.com. Yeah, you can get your mugs, sweatshirts,
26K.
26K. Yeah, we love that. Also, you get free shipping at the store for any orders over $25.
And Dan, later in the week, Dan's going to have an interview with our buddy, Mike
we're
Giardi.
current guest. No, wait. We've been teasing it.
It was a tease.
Well, it's happening.
Well, yeah, but we were pumping it up. He's the OG Buffalo Plus guest.
Yeah,
he is. Doesn't matter what
he's on the Mount Rushmore.
Guest.
It might actually just
the Mount
be
Rushmore
him on the Mount
of Buffalo Plus is just 4 Mike Giardi heads. That's what it is.
Wow. You're pumping them up there.
I mean, who else would it be?
No, but I mean, you didn't give him one. You gave him all 4. You didn't give him the first. All four.
All 4.
Wow. GRDE.
Girardi.
Really
Not
struggle
Mike
with his
Girardi.
name. Girardi.
Oh no. Well, it's don't put that out there.
Girardi. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you for joining us. For Mike and Dan, I'm Jenna. We'll catch you next time here on the Buffalo Plus channel, presented by Connors and Ferris.